big issue here, this money laundering case that became public in August of last year. But what exactly is going on, and what exactly are the banks that are involved, and what are they doing to close these loopholes?
Yeah, this is a case that came to light in August last year, as you say, Belle. And this is the largest, among the largest money laundering scandals to hit the city-state, about $3 billion worth of assets that were involved. And the latest that we know is how some of these Singapore as well as foreign banks that were revealed to be involved are trying to close the loopholes that basically these criminals were able to exploit in order to launder their illegal proceeds from online gambling. And for context here, Singapore has for decades been courting the ultra-rich, and this has helped it to spawn its finance industry and helped it to become one of the richest countries in the world. And amid this money laundering scandal, a lot of questions have been raised as to how these local as well as foreign banks operating in the country have been screening their wealthy clients. So we hear from the likes of Citi, they're reportedly, along with the likes of DBS Group, tightening up their checks as well as training. So for some of the private bankers in Citi, for example, according to some of the training material that have been seen by Bloomberg, they are being taught how to spot the tricks that some of these criminals might be using to either mask their background or the source of their funds. For DBS, they say they are tightening up the vetting process for some of their major transactions. So basically, these banks trying to close whatever loopholes that have been exploited of late.
Singapore's regulator is also conducting its own review of the banks. So what happens once that concludes?
Right. The regulator has also been, going to some of these banks. They've been conducting on-site inspections, and we see how they've also been, conducting some of the interviews with staffers to try and figure out what are the weaknesses in the compliance checks and try to close those loopholes. We hear how they are done with those on-site inspections, but once the review concludes, then I think some of the key questions includes what will happen to the banks. And it's thought that those that had the most dealings with these criminals will face fines. And we know how the likes of Citigroup as well as Credit Suisse are thought to have the largest assets being held with them, the assets that were involved in this case. So those are among the questions I think that will be answered in the days to come.
And what about Avril, the latest on the criminal case as well?
Yeah, we have about 10 men, right, that have been embroiled in this criminal case. They've all pleaded guilty, and the last of them will be sentenced today. Last week, we saw one of the sentencing coming through, and it was the longest, most severe in terms of 16 months of jail term. So that is one aspect of it. We know how about 17 others remain under investigation, and they are at large. That's what we know about the criminal proceedings so far.